almost live from the Herbert I. Greenberg Studios at WHIG. It's Up Late with Sam Bass.
Thank you, Scott Smith, and welcome everybody to our first new episode in a while. It's good to be back at my desk with my bell and my bourbon. Would you believe that I have not had a glass of bourbon since our last episode? Don't, because I would be lying. Listen, folks, a lot of you have been asking if we would still be doing the show since I left my job at the Chamber. So in case you didn't see my Facebook post from a couple of weeks ago, the answer is yes, yes, yes. This show is never affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce in any way, which I'm sure they're grateful for. And the show will go on. If anything, you might just push the proverbial envelope a little bit further. Anyway, I want to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Sparkling Creations, the party rental venue right here in Rocky Mount that helps bring this party to you every night. If I could only find a way to get that mechanical bull on our set, believe me, I would. Robbie, is that possible? Is that a possibility? Yeah, we can do it. Maybe? We'll see. That's all I check. So make sure you check them out. Sparkling Creations. Jennifer and her team do a great job. They're at 976 North Winston Avenue, or you can go to their website at asparklingcreation.com. Good folks. So you might know tonight's guest as being a real Scrooge. Not really, but he has played Ebenezer Scrooge in the Raleigh Theater in the Park's production of A Christmas Carol for 50 years. If this show made it, we can't even get to 50 episodes. We'll never make it to 50 years. He's also appeared on screen with legends like Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, Burt Reynolds, Smokey and the Bandit, and Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris. So Ira David Wood is here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to bring him out in a minute. So if we can get him out of the green room, he just loves the green room. We're going to get a crowbar and pull him out of there. So I do want to take a moment to mention something else about another David. Did y'all hear that David Letterman was in Wilson a few weeks ago? Yes. He was eating at Daniel's restaurant. Daniel's is a place I go to all the time. Of course, I'm not there the night David Letterman is. I'd like to say that he was here to appear on this show, but that would not be true. He was actually here working on a Netflix project in Greenville or something like that. However, I did email him later and I asked him would he consider appearing on this show. And in true Letterman fashion, he gave me a top 10 list of the reasons he would not be coming on this show. But due to time constraints and the fact that the top 10 list contains some words that Robbie said we cannot use, I've narrowed it down to 5. So here are the top 5 reasons that David Letterman said he would never be on Up Late with Sam Bass, according to Dave himself. Number 5, he's worried I might steal his beard to make a toupee. He's got that big old bushy beard now. He was quoted as saying Sam Bass has less hair than a bowling ball. I think I got a little bit more than that. And I feel my beard isn't safe around someone with nothing to lose in the follicle department. Okay, I guess he's got a little bit of a point there. Number 4, he's worried he'd get hit with a flying object. And I quote, I, David Letterman, have spent decades throwing pencils at cameras, and my aim is much better than Sam Bass, thank you. I'd rather not have to dodge flying cell phones and note cards at this point in my life. Thank you very much. I guess I can understand. Watch out. Watch it, Jamie. Number 3, he's not a fan of our green room. What? Not a fan of our green room? He says I've seen better green rooms on death row. Well, that would be the Green Mile. At least they actually feed you first. Well, that would be your last meal. Hold on a minute, Dave. We may not have snacks, but at least we have bourbon in my green room. And I know you're a cigar guy, and I could probably hook you up. Come on. Number 2, not a fan of the location. My crack research staff from Macon, North Carolina, overheard him say, "If I'm going back to North Carolina, I'm heading straight for the Outer Banks." Well, you know, when you get down there, make sure you take the ferry over to Chapel Hill. And I'll not be going to Sam's backyard building, AKA Sam's Shack. Well, that is his loss, in my opinion, because Sam's Shack is legendary. Correct? Right, Vlad? And the number one reason David Letterman said he would not do the Up Late with Sam Bass television show. Number one, he's already booked on Check It Out. Wait, what? That's it. I quit.
I'm Mr. Lonely. I have nobody.
He'll be right back with Ira David Wood, maybe.
If you're planning a party, wedding, birthday party, baby shower, or corporate event, Sparkling Creations can make it memorable for you. With tents, tables, bouncy houses, and more. We can even provide a fire pit for outdoor events. If you want to be adventurous, we have a mechanical bull. You name the event, and Sparkling Creations has you covered. Located at 976 North Winstead Avenue, Sparkling Creations, where we make every event sparkle.
Hey, welcome back, and I did stay, by the way. As promised, I've got the star of stage and screen right here with me, Mr. Ira David Wood. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for sharing your bourbon.
Yes, sir, always, always. Good bourbon is meant for sharing with friends. Cheers to that.
I'll drink to that.
So, you know, we were talking in the green room a little bit earlier about your name, and I wasn't sure to call you Ira or David or Ira David or Sir Wood or Mr. Wood, but you just go by David, correct?
That's correct.
Your son goes by Ira, correct?
It's a generational thing.
Okay, got you. So I want to talk about your book. Here it is. The Bittersweet Voyage of the Golden Ship Hatteras. What inspired you to write this book?
My years on the Outer Banks, my college years, 4 years were spent on Roanoke Island in the Lost Colony outdoor drama as an actor. I loved my time down there. And years later, I was asked to go back and direct the show. So I spent 7 more years on the island directing the show. It's been kind of my second home for a lot of years. Christmas Day, I used to take the Christmas tree, take it down, put it in the back of my Volkswagen Campmobile, which I had, drive down to Roanoke Island, take the tree out, set it up in the apartment or cottage I had rented, call all my friends in Manteo and say, "I'm here, come on over." And we would celebrate the New Year every year down there on the Outer Banks. So I traveled a lot, all the way from Ocracoke up to Duck. I got to know the area and the people, fell in love with it. And I wanted to write a story that was as much a love story about the place itself and the people there. So I chose the Golden Ship Hatteras because of a small model that I had at home that I'd had most of my life. My cousin, who was in the military, brought a small gold ship back from Portugal and gave it to me. So I use that as a center point in the novel. And it's gone over very well. I'm really loving the people that I'm meeting through the book, and that's been a bonus.
So I do believe it was a #1 bestseller at some point in time. So do you ever casually work that into a conversation, say something like, "I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I was busy working on my bestseller"?
Right, yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm working on a new one.
Oh, great.
I'm going to set this one in Wrightsville Beach at the Lumina Pavilion. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was this gigantic dance hall built in 1905. It survived all the way up to its destruction in 1973. So it saw so many changes. I'm going to do a 3-generation story, make it a series of love stories that center around this dance hall. that saw the big bands, Count Basie,
Wow.
and ushered in beach music. So I think, it's got a lot of possibilities, and I'm really excited about starting work on that.
I mean, you said it ended in, what, 73? Mm-hmm. It's like the Circle at Atlantic Beach. That was the place to go down there, and of course it's gone now.
Yep.
It's like anything good back in those days, it's gone. So going back to your book, you talked about how the book was actually written kind of by two people, one in their 20s and one in the 70s. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Well, I started the book after my 4th summer on an island, when I knew I wasn't going back to do the Lost Colony. And I started the book then, finished a rough draft, put it away. It got lost as I moved around. Mm-hmm. It was in a library box. And then during COVID, when we were all getting ready to lock down for a year or two, my sister called me one day and she said, "You're not going to believe what I found in my attic. This manuscript that you wrote called A Bittersweet Voyage of the Golden Ship Hatteras." She brought it over to the house and she said, "Why don't you try to go back now and recapture that passion you had in the 20s and see if you can flesh the book out and finish it?" So I thought, well, that's a great thing to do during COVID. So I did. So it really has two authors. It has the 20-year-old and the 70-year-old. Looking
both
back.
you.
Yeah. Actually, I'm really a couple of years away from 80, which is a shock.
I'm shocked by that.
Well, you remember when we were young, 40 was like
Ancient. Exactly.
blue taps.
Exactly.
Now everybody's living a lot younger or older, and I feel like I'm somebody that time has surprised, because it's really snuck up on me, and I can't believe it. It seems like yesterday I was high school.
Right. Well, David, 70 is the new 40. That's what we're going with.
God bless you. I'll take that. I'll drink to that.
Yeah, cheers. That's the problem on the show. We drink to a lot of things, so we've got a long way to go, so we need to slow down.
All right.
So you have 50 years of Scrooge under your belt, which actually sounds kind of dirty, but it's not meant to be that way. That is commitment, though. And at this point, do you ever slip into character accidentally? Are you ever at the grocery store and when they ring up your total and you see how high it is and you instinctively shout, "Bah, humbug"? Does that ever happen?
No, I try to be as polite and as kind as I can, because I have been Scrooge for so long. But it is always at the grocery store when you look like death warmed over, and you go and somebody says, "Excuse me, were you Scrooge?" And you go, no, that was my evil twin. No, not me. But I do have a story. I was in China at the Forbidden City once, gazing out at this amazing city, the 3 main temples that you have to go through to get to the final one. And I'm standing there just at a loss at what I'm looking at. And there was this couple next to me, and the guy looked over and he said, "Excuse me, are you Ira David Wood?" I went, "What?" And he said, "Ebenezer Scrooge." They had seen A Christmas Carol. And he said, "Beijing, China?" So you never know where it's going to come back and bite you.
Well, that's a very good story, though, to get recognized in China.
Yeah, I mean, and I have one more. It's a good story, getting recognized. I went to New York with my daughter, who is the star of the family, Evan Rachel Wood, and her then husband, Jamie Bell, who was a star in his own right. We wanted to have dinner together, so my sister, who was with us and who used to live in New York, suggested this Italian restaurant. Said, "It's great, it's gonna hit big." So we get there early. Well, when we got there, most of the seats were filled, so we had to eat at the bar, which was fine with me, because if I'm eating good Italian food, it's great. I don't care where I'm eating, just bring it out. So I'm sitting between Evan and Jamie, and my sister looks down the row into the restaurant. She sees this lady looking at us, and so she says, I think Evan and Jamie have been spotted. So I said, guys, get ready. I think she's going to come over and ask for an autograph or introduce herself. So a few minutes later, we looked, and here she came down the restaurant. I said, okay, here she comes, get ready. And she walked up and she said, are you Ira David Wood? And I stood up and I went, you have free ticket to A Christmas Carol this year. You have made my trip to New York. Thank you.
So how did that make your daughter?
She loved it.
I bet she did.
She tells me, she said, everywhere I go, somebody knows you.
Yeah.
And so I said, as well they should.
Well, you're a star in your own right.
In my own mind.
A legend in your own time. So there's a performance that you used a gorilla in a tutu. I heard this somewhere. How did you come up with that?
Well, we have the kids in A Christmas Carol try to sing to Scrooge. They try to sing A Christmas Carol at the door of his office. He never lets them. And we ran out of things to do to scare him off his doorstep. So I just said, look, let's bring out a gorilla in a tutu. That's about as ridiculous as I can think. And so we did, and the gorilla I named Bonzo. And so I would just come out with this rope that was led through a doorway and kept pulling it until the gorilla appeared, and I'd just say, Bonzo, kill. And he would run after these kids and they would scatter. So that got to be a bit in the show that we just kept, and the audience loved it, and Bonzo's become immortal.
I think Dickens probably forgot to include that in the original manuscript.
He did, but we knew he wanted to put it in. We just felt that he did.
So you feel like out there he's muttering in his mind, not in my original draft, but I like it.
I like it. Actually, his family, members of the Dickens family, came to see the show.
Wow.
His great-grandson, Gerald Dickens, does a one-man Charles Dickens reading of A Christmas Carol, just like Charles used to do when he would tour America. So we invited Gerald to come and see the show while he was in Raleigh. Came to see it. After the show, there was no English pub that we could take him to, but there was an Irish pub in Raleigh, as close as we could get.
It works.
Took him to this Irish pub. We're sitting there with our pints of ale, and he never said anything about the show. And finally I said, Gerald, okay, tell me, what did you think? And he said, oh, I loved your show. I thought it was wonderful. He said, but I think Charles would have had a problem with it. And I went, oh, what would that be? And he said, I think Charles would have wanted to play your role. So I went, oh, thank you. So we did get a seal of approval for all the liberties that we take with Mr. Dickens.
So if you were going to take more liberties with the unhinged element of the version of A Christmas Carol, have you thought about that any? What would it be?
Well, I'm actually working on Christmas Carol Part 2.
Okay.
And this is years later, and the citizens of London are sick of Christmas. They are the Scrooges now because Scrooge has changed. He loves Christmas. He wants Christmas every day of the year. So it's July, and the townspeople are bundled into winter clothing, and they're having to sing Christmas carols, and they hate it. And they go, kill him, just kill him. And of course he comes in and is, Bob, your coat's a bit worn. Have you been to the Bahamas lately? Yes, sir, I was there last week. Please, can I go back to work? No, Bob, but I want. So they go crazy. And the whole idea is that they have to get him back as he was in the beginning. They want him just to say humbug one more time. And at the end of the play, when he finally does, they all go crazy. They're just cheering that they get the old Scrooge back. So I'm having a lot of fun with that.
So I'm gathering Christmas is very near and dear to your heart.
It is. It is.
So you even wrote a book called Confessions of an Elf. Now, I have to say I'm particularly partial to this for other reasons, which we'll talk about later. But I do need details. Are these wholesome elf confessions, or are we talking full-blown North Pole scandals?
These are good elf confessions.
Okay.
This is an elf who works for Santa, whom he refers to as the boss, in the North Pole, and he thinks that the 21st century needs to redefine who Santa is. And if you want him to wear the red suit, he wears the red suit. But he's just as comfortable in a sweatshirt and his, jeans.
Or a
and
white suit with a pink shirt.
He's just as comfortable. Yes. So I just decided that it was time to do that. And it's divided into little stories. Charles Dickens is in there, how he got the idea to write A Christmas Carol. So I just tied it together as if I was an elf and breaking the elfin code of silence.
Right.
To tell the world what really goes on at the North Pole and how Santa and Mrs. Claus don't have children of their own, so they basically adopted all the children in the world,
Very cool. So whatever made you want to get into theater?
Well, I played football and they killed me. So I figured that's true. I was playing football and I got down in the huddle for the first time, and I asked the quarterback, what do I do? They said, just go long. Try to stay out of our way. I said, I can do that. So when I got down in the huddle, in the line of scrimmage, for the first time in my life, I'm facing this guy who hates me. I can tell. I can feel the hate. I can taste the hate coming from this man. And he looks at me. I don't know him. I've never said anything about his mother. Nothing. And he looks at me and he says, boy, when they snap that ball, I'm going to run up the front of your body with my cleats. I'm going to stop long enough to tap dance on your head. Then I'm going to run down your back. And while I do that, I'm going to grab your arm and rip it out of the socket and beat you to death with a bloody stump. And for the first time in my life, theater kicked in. And I looked across that line of scrimmage at that guy and I said, oh, please do. And when they snapped that ball, he moved away from me. And I ran through. I didn't get grass stains on my uniform. I waved at my girlfriend in the stands. I'm playing football. So I decided after that I was a natural show-off. I was a ham. I cut up in class. I was the one that always got caught and got in trouble. And I said, I think I want to give my life to theater. I was 14 when I decided. I went downstairs that morning and I told my mom, I said, I'm going to be an actor. I want to do that. And being a good Southern Baptist, she said, well, let's sit at the breakfast table and pray about it, which we did. So after that, my mind was made up. I didn't get the senior panics like everybody does, like, oh gosh, no, it's not playtime anymore, it's real. I never got that because I knew theater was what I wanted to do. My guidance counselor told me, he said, there's a place where crazy people like yourself can go. And I said, where is that? And he said, the Governor's School of North Carolina. I had to audition to get in. I auditioned, and to my shock and surprise, I got in. And from Governor's School, I had auditioned to get into this brand new school opening in Winston-Salem, the only school of its kind in the Western Hemisphere that taught dance, drama, music, and academics under the same roof. And that was 1965 when it opened, and it was the North Carolina School of the Arts.
Wow.
So I got accepted to go there. And the way I found out was I was in vocational agriculture class. I was a future farmer of America.
FFA.
FFA, Enfield, North Carolina. And
Enfield.
Enfield, yes. Hell.
We'll drain Enfield.
And the principal came on the loudspeaker. David Wood, come to the office. And right away you go, oh God, what does he know? So I got up, left vocational ag building, went over to the main building. I'm walking down the hall. At the end of the hall, I see my mother. And I go, this is bad. So I get to her, and I'm ready for the blindfold and the last cigarette. And I look at her and I say, Mom, what's wrong? And she said nothing. She said, "You've been accepted at the North Carolina School of the Arts. This is the last time I'll see you come down this hallway." So I went back to vocational ag, sat down. My best friend was next to me. He said, "What happened?" I said, "I've been accepted at the North Carolina School of the Arts." He said, "What's that?" I said, "I don't know, but it's going to be a lot better than vocational agriculture."
Exactly.
So it changed my life. But I have to footnote that by saying I quote my vocational agriculture teacher more than I quote Shakespeare.
Really?
Because Harry Willie was his name. We all call him Cabin Willie because all men were called Cabin in those days.
Oh, okay.
Cabin Willie taught us that you can take only so much out of the soil, but unless and until you put something back in the soil to rejuvenate it, the soil becomes depleted. And that's the main reason I've stayed in North Carolina, was that lesson that Harry Willie taught us. I've always felt that I owe the state a big debt. It took me out of vocational agriculture in Enfield, put me in governor's school, put me in the School of the Arts, put me in the Lost Colony, gave me all of those opportunities. And I've always felt that I owed a debt to the state. So when people ask, "Why didn't you go to California? Why didn't you go to New York?" I said, North Carolina is home, and I've never regretted it. I've raised my family here. This is another reason I wanted to stay. And I've never looked back. I've never regretted not being in those places. In fact, I've been able to go to LA and New York and work in both places. But this is home. I always come back to it.
Hey, I want to thank my very special guest tonight, Ira David Wood, for coming down and sharing some really great stories. So tune in next week for the second half of my interview with him, exclusive interview with Ira David Wood right here on Up Late with Sam Bass. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.